I've been a doula for now over 10 years, but I'm really active about now 5 years. So every time I actually have some expat mom contacting me is to understand how it goes in France and what they can do and what they cannot, because from one country to another one, it's really different. So what I wanted to say, first of all, is most of the new pregnant mom are going to see directly a gynecologist, which is not the most logical step to do. As soon as you find out that you're pregnant, the most logical step will be to take an appointment with a midwife. The midwife is trained everything medical she can follow apart from health issues. So as soon as you have a health issue, here we go, now that I started, they're coming. Hello, Rachel. Welcome. Hi, Rachel, and welcome. Ah, here we go. I guess I'm going to start over. Hello, Lynn. Hello, Rachel. Welcome, girls. We were waiting for you. Thanks for being here. So don't be surprised. Your microphone and your camera are off. I will just introduce the whole concept, I will say, and then if you have any questions, and we will be able to exchange at the end. So you can introduce just yourself in the chat if you want to tell us where you are and how far you are. And from there, I will start over again. I mean, I just introduced myself and I was about to start. So feel free to get comfortable, get your drink, turn off your phone perhaps, and we'll be it. So Lynn, if you want to tell me if you're pregnant, how far you are, as well as Rachel, and in which city you are, if you are in this area or somewhere else in France, and if you can hear me properly. No answer, I guess. I hope you hear me well. So let me introduce myself again. So I'm Floriane. Hi, Lynn, thanks. Perfect, thank you for the confirmation. I like to be called Flo in English, it's just easier. I'm based in Nice as well. I'm a mother of 3 and I'm a doula for over 10 years now. Saint-Antoine is that Rachel, this Rachel. Okay, now I know you. I thought you were someone else, but now I know who you are. So I was saying, sorry for the girls that were already here because I was just about to start and now I have to just repeat again, which is fine for me. I just don't want to stutter. Anyway, so I was saying, so when you find out that you're pregnant in France, the most logical step will be to contact a midwife and instead of a gynecologist, just because most of the people just run to a gynecologist when they find out that they're pregnant. And then most of them are kind of disappointed because they don't take time, which is totally logical when you understand how they work. A gynecologist in France is really made for like health issues. So as soon as you have a girl problem, you will have to go to see a gynecologist. But as you're pregnant, you're not supposed to be sick, you're just pregnant. So the most logical will be to go to see a midwife. The midwife is really trained for everything healthy, but all on the health aspect, but on the healthy one. As soon as you have a health issue, she will refer you to a gynecologist. So I'm sorry to keep repeating that, but that's really important because even French women, they kind of always go to the gynecologist, and the midwife job is definitely not well enough. The midwife can follow you during the pregnancy, during the birth and after the birth, but also for all the way to getting your menopause or your first period. So she really can cover all the woman life. Depending if you are under the French social security system, if you're under the French one, obviously you won't have to pay quite nothing directly. You have up to 8 appointments before the birth covered by the government to go to see a midwife and do all the preparation in terms of breathing, breastfeeding, position, when to go to the hospital. each midwife is different. Some are doing some class session, some group session, and some are doing some only individuals or just for the couple. So again, you can check with each midwife to see who is she and what kind of preparation is she doing. Some are doing some yoga, some are doing, hypnobirthing is not really big in France, but you can find some that are doing it. You have some haptonomy. I don't know if you know, if you heard about this system. This haptonomy preparation is made, it has to be with your partner, and you have to start quite early to be able to do it during all the pregnancy and be able to use it for the birth. After, most of the midwife will do just general preparation and nothing specific. So if you're aiming at something really particular, you will have to look for it. A midwife compared to a gynecologist, the price is a big difference. So if you have to pay from your pocket, obviously the midwife will be a cheaper option. A midwife is about 25 euro per session, where a gynecologist is a minimum of 50, 70, 80, even 100 euros per session. In France, legally, only 3 scans are a must. Most of the gynecologists, they are pushing you to do a scan at each appointment, which is more to get money from you, because legally they don't have to. So that's definitely your choice. If you're happy to see your baby and pay every time, of course you can do it. Otherwise, it's only 1 scan per trimester. Especially the second one is the biggest and the main one, because it's where they take all the measurement to see if there is anything abnormal or anything missing or whatever. So the second scan is really big. And in France, if you want to avoid scan, most of the maternity will not allow you to have the baby in their maternity if you refuse to do scans. So France is not the most medical country, but it's not the least either. I know in the UK, they do definitely less invasive exams. Even when it comes to blood tests, in France, each month you have to do a blood, what do you call it? Shoot, I forgot. You have to go to the lab and do your blood check, especially if you are not immune by the toxoplasmos. It's big in France. I don't know why, because in some other countries they eat exactly like us and they don't check it. So each country has really its own specific way of following a pregnancy. In France, you are followed up during the pregnancy and during the birth really from close, but as soon as you have the baby, you kind of lost and all by yourself. So it will be really a good idea to organize your postpartum as well, especially if you don't have any family or in-laws around you. I know with the COVID, the confinement, now we are not anymore confined, but it will be a good idea to see and organize if your family can visit you. Perhaps not all at once, especially when you work. When you live here on the French Riviera, they all want to come for some vacation and they're not really helping you. So it would be important to really organize that, because like I said, especially if you want to breastfeed, you have to know that in France, the midwife, I think they have about 2 days of training concerning the breastfeeding out of 5 years of study. So it's really low. So if she doesn't make an effort to do her own training, it will be hard to get some good advice. And the pediatrician, they have zero training about breastfeeding. So be aware that if you want to breastfeed, you can attend some La Leche League Association meetups. You can contact a lactation consultant or a doula. I do some breastfeeding consultation as well. There's different options, but not perhaps the one that you were expecting. So you can tell me in the chat if you are planning to breastfeed, just to have an idea if on which side you are, I would say, even if it's not a war, obviously. Going back to the option that you have in France, depending, I can see that right now you are all from the 06, the Alpes Maritimes department. Here you have different options on how you can have your baby. We have public hospital, we have private clinic. Yes, okay, Casey. You can have a home birth, and that's about it. There is 2 other options that could have in other departments, but we don't have it here. The first one is called plateau technique, which is, I don't think that there is no such things in, I don't know how you call it in English, to be honest. It's when you have a private midwife, but she's allowed and have access to a hospital. Like she's not attached to hospital, but she's allowed to get in with her own client and deliver the baby there, which doesn't exist here, but it's just in case someone is not from here, at least you know what are the options. And we don't have any birth center. In France, they opened 7 birth centers in France, and they were like on a trial, and they just realized that it's actually good, so they might open more. But again, in this area, we don't have any birth center. Home birth, of course, it's allowed in France. It's not really common, so most of the time when you talk about having a home birth, they look at you like you're crazy. But there is midwife. It's not all the private midwife. Here in this area, there is only 2 midwives that does home birth. There used to be 4, but they have a lot of pressure, so most of them, they quit. There's some department in France where you can't find any home birth midwives, so some people are even moving for that. Oh, the light is weird on my computer. As you are all from here, I will just go over different public and private hospital are really different in this area. In the public hospital, first of all, you're allowed to have only 1 person, so it will be your partner. I mean, either your husband or whatever, but it's only whoever. Sorry, it will be only 1 person. And I'm talking about out of the COVID situation, because right now it's still a bit tricky to know who is doing what where. Some they allow the dad right away, I mean the partner, and some they will just double check that the mom is really in labor to let the partner access the labor room. So if you are due soon, it will be important to check with your maternity what is the protocol and the procedure right now, just to not get surprised when it's time to have the baby. In private clinic here in this area, it's a bit more flexible. As a doula, I can attend birth in private clinic, where in public I cannot. So if it's something that you consider to have more than just your partner, it will be more like a private option. And for the home birth, as I said, there's only 2 midwives. So if it's something that you think about having, you have to ask them as soon as possible, because as there are only 2, they have a lot of people asking. So they say no quite easy. One is taking only 4 clients per month, and the other one is taking only 2. So I know now they are starting to refusing people. I'm just looking at my notes just to go over everything I wanted to tell you. Talking about cost, just in case some are not covered by the French social system, the cost of a birth in France, it will be around 2,700 in a public hospital, where in a private clinic, it will be from 2,700 up to 7,000, depending where you're going, because as soon as they know that you're private, you go private and you pay from your pocket. Even if you have a private insurance, they know that they reimburse well, so they charge you well. So even to stay like night-wise, as soon as they know that you're private, they invite you to stay longer just because you pay, and you pay full price. So you might be considering that just when they invite you to stay longer, if it's really for you and the baby, or if it's just a money issue. It's a bit ugly, but we have to admit that money is always there. Main difference, again, in public, depending again what kind of birth you want to have. In public, as you don't pay the anesthetist because he works there and he doesn't get paid from what he does, he just get paid because he's there. They will, if you refuse to have the epidural, they will not force you just because they don't get paid for it. Where in private clinic, they might insist a little bit more just because each anesthetist is getting paid for each epidural he does. So I don't want to get you all freaked out or paranoia. It's just important to understand the system just to make your own choice and being able to choose again. I mean, that's the most important. When you're pregnant, you have to understand that first it's your body, it's your baby. And for this birth, it will be only 1 attempt. So it's important to get what you want and not have any regrets after. So for me, every woman that I'm supporting, I'm trying to give as much as possible information just to not have any regret after saying like, oh, if I knew that, I should have asked, or I should have done this and that. So That's why for me it's really important to have all the cards and make your own game. I talk about prices when it comes to private and public. The home birth will be the cheapest option, which is, it could sound weird, but each midwife has his overcost package. I think it's about like 350 euros, just the price of the birth. And then they ask some extra money from 500 to 1,000 euro extras. That's including all the checkups after the birth and everything. Even if you choose to have a home birth, you will have to enroll in one of the maternity to have your file there, because they need to, some location need to know your file, your medical file, just in case that if you need to be transferred or if you have to cancel your home birth, there is a backup or a plan B. So, and it's like, even if you want non-medical birth, like a birth without epidural, you will have to meet anesthetist just in case of an emergency. So it's not because they ask you to take an appointment that you're forced to have one, but that's part of the protocol. You have to have a visit with an anesthetist. So here in France, compared to countries like UK or neighbors, the only pain relief that they offer is pretty much the epidural. We don't have gas and air. Some maternity will have perhaps some midwife that do acupuncture, homeopathy, or hypnobirthing, but this is really rare. You have to be lucky, I will say, for that day. Some will have some bathtub, for example, but officially in France, again, the bathtub is just for the labor, but they never say that you're allowed to have the baby in the bathtub. They will always ask you to come out to have the baby outside. There is one private clinic in Nice called Saint-Georges, and in this clinic it happens that they let you in, but it's pretty much the only one where they allow water birth. It's not common again, and you have to end up choosing a gynecologist that's pretty open-minded, because in private clinic, to access the private clinic, you have to choose a gynecologist. But if you choose just whoever, you might not get the birth you want, because each gynecologist has his own profile and his own way of working. So our role as doulas is to know who is doing what, and to be able to guide you and to refer you to which gynecologist works how, just to not make sure, but to get all the chances and the best chances to have the birth that you're looking for. I'm insisting on that and again and again, but you will see that when you will be that day there, your brain's not going to be able to think about your option. It's going to have to be kind of determined, just not to fight or not to talk for an hour on the day just to get something. So doing a birth plan will be a good option. Not a birth plan, perhaps just copy and paste from the internet. The best will be, of course, to get inspired from one, and then adapt it to what you really want, you and your husband and your partner, for that baby and for that birth, but also depending on the protocol of each location. Because, for example, a lot of women are complaining that they are not allowed to move around, but it's just because they don't get the chance to do it. Most of the places, they will not tell you not to move, but they will not invite you to move. So it's not because people don't suggest you that you're not allowed to. You have to know, do what you want. As long as you're healthy, that baby and yourself are doing fine, you're allowed pretty much to do whatever you want. Of course, you might end up with some midwife, old-fashioned or not gentle one that might give you attitude, you know, the French one, being rude or being mean to you, saying, oh, you're moving too much, we cannot have a proper monitoring. But again, that's their job. Like, if you want to move and they cannot get the baby's heart rate on the monitor, you can welcome her to stay with you and hold the capture just to make sure that she's listening to it, rather than forcing you staying on the bed just for her to be comfortable. So the whole point of that is not to fight with the medical staff, but is to find a good balance to get what you want, to make them feel comfortable, but to feel comfortable yourself as well. So now they have more and more good material. So you could ask for like Wi-Fi monitoring, like a cordless one, Like this, they can monitor you, but you can walk around and not being strapped with all the cord to the machine. On the other side, if you are strapped with the monitoring with the cord is always long enough to be able to stand next to the table or to walk a bit, just to, not all around the bed, but at least back and forth between the machine and the bed. Again, in the chat, if you want to tell me what kind of birth you're looking for, are you like a drug-free one, or you want some epidural? Just that I know if I have to go on both sides or just one, just to have an idea. So you can find the chat down below my video. In the video, you should find the box just to know what kind of project you have, all drug-free or not. Lynn would like a drug-free natural birth. Could you tell me where are you going to have your baby? Just to give you an idea, in France, the epidural rate is 80%. So it gives you an idea of how the staff is trained or not about drug-free labor. So it will be really important to prepare yourself and your partner, or having a doula or whatever, just to make sure that's perfect, that you have all the easy access of what you want to get, because they are not rude or whatever, the midwife. It's just that when it's getting hard for you, when you say, can you help me? Apart from offering you the epidural, they are not that good to help. So that's why it's really important to have a backup plan. You see, yeah, everyone is suggesting just because they're not used to it, where we've been having babies forever, like women are designed for that. So our body are doing it. If you're here, it's because your mom did it and your grandmother did it and your sisters and aunts and whoever, great grandmother, whatever. So many women did it. In France, they sell the epidural like it's the best thing ever. But I can just encourage you and stick to your goal. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of women doing it, and it's not, I mean, it's still whoa for me, because that's amazing. But you can do it as every woman, except if there is something like, if there is medical issues or a baby that doesn't present himself on the correct position. Even with that, you can do a lot of different options, moving with the ball, squatting, head down, butt up, whatever. There's a lot of stuff before, I mean, to unlock a situation before having the epidural. On the other side, I'm not against it, and I totally respect it. And some case, it even save life, and it is deblock, I would say, situation. But just to give you the atmosphere, it has to be really coming from you, and you have to tell your partner. Because the problem with partners is that when they see their love in these powerful moments, they kind of freak out and they're like, why would you do this to you? Just accept the epidural, where that's not the help you need to get. You just need to get someone telling you that you're doing well, that everything is fine and everything is okay, and just keep doing it. So that would be also really important to remind to your partner. In the birth plan is actually really for you to make things clear about what you want, but also to the partner to realize what's important for you, and he will be the one guarding this birth plan. So even if you are in your contraction really into it and you kind of forget where you are and what you're doing, he will be there to remind the staff and the medical team on what is important for your birth, your couple, your family. So in the birth plan, you don't need to make a long letter where you explain all your life and what happened and why you're there. Obviously, if you're there is to have your baby, so don't go too quick, too long about your personal story. Just go briefly and directly to the point that are important for you. Sorry, I'm just reading the question. So there's two things to know, Casey, about the bridge baby. First, 33 weeks is still have room and space to move, to turn around. Obviously, there is exercise, and there is also like going to an osteopath or acupuncture or swimming. I mean, we could discuss way more about that after. I mean, either after the video or after my presentation, I would say. And C-section is not the answer to a breech baby. Even if it's the first one, if you get a scan or if you get a gynecologist that have the guts to say, okay, as long as if you're okay, you can have a breech baby even for a first one. You just have to find the correct person to attend that kind of birth. But don't go and stress about the C-section, because that's also a reason sometimes the babies are not turning anymore, because the mom is just stressed and freaks out about the issue. I mean, the end of the pregnancy. So stay relaxed, breathe, and give time and space to that baby. Going back on the birth plan, so if you want a natural birth, when I say natural, it's like drug-free, the first main thing on the birth plan will be to say that you want to avoid the epidural. Of course, you don't say, I don't want this, I must have that. I mean, you're not at the army. It's more, I would like, I hope to, or please help me to get that. You don't have to do too nice fake things either. But saying that you want to stay mobile all the time, like the mobility and being able to be free to stand up, to lay down, to go to the loo, that's one of the most important things when you want a drug-free birth. You can ask for the cordless monitoring. That will be number 2, because even if officially, even the WHO, the World Health Organization, is saying that the constant monitoring is not a must, but in France, or in Nice at least, or here in this area, they feel way more comfortable when they always have you under the monitoring, just to know that the baby is fine. The explanation for that is that there is a lack of midwife. So it's easier for them to have all the women under monitoring and to know that everyone is fine, rather than having to go to each room every hour to check the baby. It's just a convenience, short staff. Yeah, it's awful, but that's really in France a big problem, is that there is always not enough people. I know in UK they have that. I know a lot about UK lately, so that's why I'm always taking this comparison. But in UK they want 1 midwife per woman. In France it's 1 midwife for 4 or 5 women. So imagine if you are on a full moon night and there is all those women coming to have babies, it is just easier for the French to have everyone under monitoring and under epidural, because they can be everywhere. Where when you have all those women having drug-free birth, then the babies can pop like this and they cannot control anything. So that's the explanation, which is fine. I mean, you have to remember and keep in mind that you don't need anyone to have your baby. Your body is doing it and you are doing it. Your partner is a plus, the team is a plus, but you don't need anyone. That's also something really important to get in your head and to keep in mind, is that in English, we don't have that problem, because you say, I gave birth, but in French, for the ones that are bilingual or speak French, we say, il m'a accouché. Le docteur untel m'a accouché, or la sage-femme m'a accouché. It's like a reflecting word saying someone had me birthing. So in French, it's already something that's in their mind with the language, that someone is making the birth for themselves. Where in English it's more empowering, where it's you having the baby, it's you laboring. And that's something that has to be really, really bright in your head, is that you are the one having the baby. And that's, I think, one of the key sentences to have in your mind again and again. Of course, it's not all on your shoulders, because you are two. There's your baby inside that needs to do all the job as well. Oh, let me change. It's really getting dark and I don't have light in this room. Sorry. Technology. Here we go. It's a bit less dark. Yeah. So, always keep in mind that being active is number 1. Talking about all the how do you call it, when you put the drops, or the catheter. The public hospital will be more comfortable putting the catheter as soon as you get in the labor room like this. They like to have access to your vein just in case of an emergency. But when you want a natural birth, that's something that you can find a compromise, saying, I want to be free because I want a drug-free labor, so please put the catheter a bit later. So either they will say yes, and they will just wait that you are more far advanced in the labor to install the catheter. Otherwise, they will say, no, we want to put it, but we won't connect it to anything. So you will have the catheter placed with like a cap, and then the drops will be added definitely later. You're allowed to that's again, there is the official way and the case to case, I will say. So you're allowed to drink and eat because it's proven that it's better to have a natural birth. You need energy, and to get energy, you need to drink all along the birth because you're breathing a lot. So breathing with your open mouth makes you thirsty. So if you're thirsty, you need to drink. But in some cases, they don't like you to eat and drink just in case of an emergency or just in case you're vomiting. Again, you have to understand that you're not sick, you're having a baby. So either you talk in advance with the team saying, are you letting us eating and drinking or not? If you know it, then you have to be discreet and having some snacks or a little bottle of water in your bag. But you have to realize that if you're going to the restaurants, and I'm not talking about the pregnancy, but when there is an accident and they're not stopping from taking care of the people just because they eat and drink, if they take care of the emergency. So we don't have to compare that to just in case, because the just in case just won't allow you to do anything. So be aware that, of course, if you drink and eat a lot, there is one point where you might vomit just because it's getting really intense. And it's really common as a woman having contraction that towards the end, the vomiting part is starting. So not all the women, but a lot of them. You have to make that story really positive because obviously it's not really comfortable to be vomiting and breathing at the same time to deal with your contraction. But your uterus is contracting like that for hours. So when you start vomiting, you kind of like press your stomach on the other side. So it's really helping the baby to evaluate and get lower. So always keep in mind, even if vomiting is not positive, I mean, it's not something feeling good, it's actually good to help the baby to dive into your pelvis. So again, everything is made for a reason in the birth. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. Oh, actually, hold on, I had a mom in labor, but yeah, she's having contraction. But yeah, that's part of my job. Sometimes I can be called anytime, so sorry. That's why I kept my phone not too far, because I knew she was having contraction early on. And she's preparing a VBAC. Again, having a vaginal birth after a C-section is possible. It's not easy everywhere, but it's possible. I'm the proof of it. I had a C-section for my first one and 2 vaginal births for my second and third one. Going back on the birth plan, I'm talking about birth plan and option when you are in the maternity, wherever you are, or even if you're at home, it gives you some idea of what kind of stuff you could do. Where you have access to water, I invite you to write on your birth plan that you would like to have access either the shower or the bathtub, which is not available everywhere. But as long as you don't have an epidural, if the water is accessible, then you're allowed to get in it, except if your water broke before. In some places, if your water broke, then for some antibacterial issues, they won't let you access to any bathtub. Just they don't want you to get any bacteria. Sorry. Apart from that, you can have a shower or have a bath, even more than one bath. If you need more than one, you're just welcome to request for it. Never be scared to interrupt people, because I can see some mama like, yeah, but I already beeped like twice the midwife. I don't want to call once more. She's there for that. So don't feel guilty to call and ask for help or ask for something. The birthing room has to be your room for a few hours. It's like your house. So you have to feel comfortable when it comes to light, to the sound, to the smell. Of course, they won't do it for you. So that's something that you will have to discuss with your partner or your doula. What kind of, you don't have to discuss what kind of atmosphere you want, but what kind of atmosphere you need to have a proper birth, rather that you have an epidural or not. You have to feel comfortable. If it's too bright, it's not going to help. So if it's daytime, it's good to close down the shades. Or if it's nighttime, don't turn the light on. You can be really, actually like here, with just a light light. If people are talking too loud next door, your partner can open the door and say, sorry, my wife is trying to relax. Could you just talk further or lower? I know it sounds a bit rude, but to have a comfortable birth, you have to feel comfortable yourself. You have to feel safe. So if someone is making you scared, or every time the person is walking in the room, you're stressing, then it's not going to help. So make sure that every people that's taking care of you is good to you. And if that person is not good, you can ask to change that midwife. Nicely, you can say, sorry, you know, with you, I don't feel the vibes. Could you ask your colleague to come and check me next time, for example? Or if you don't ask, you can ask your partner to do it. So like I said, you need to feel safe. You need to feel warm. So for the one that is going to have a baby during the summer, don't put the AC too high, because the AC make you kind of shivering, and then obviously your body will close. So it's better to have some light ventilation, of obviously not die from the heat either, but make sure that it's better to refresh yourself a bit rather than covering yourself. You need to be warm to open it, so the atmosphere of the room will have this influence on you as well. And the last thing that you need is the intimacy. Most of the women in labor, they cannot stand anything on their skin, like the pants might be too tight, or they might be too hot, like they don't feel having nothing on themselves, they're half nude or naked. So you can have just like a sarong or a pareo, no, it's not in English, but something like when you go to the beach, something around your wrist, just to cover your butt. Because everyone, even if you're like, yeah, but I'm having a baby, I don't care, your body needs that intimacy. If you're squatting on the floor and every time someone is opening the door, he has the view on your butt, you're not going to feel, and you're gonna start squeezing somehow, and that's not going to help for the birth. So the 3 points are really important: security, intimacy, and the warmth. If you have those three together, then you can have that natural birth, or that a good birth anywhere. Because we are mammals, so as soon as something is coming and interrupting this procedure, this process of natural birth, it's kind of like a little stone in a bike, you know, it's not rolling properly. So every time you cannot handle the contraction anymore, you have to think about what is disturbing you, because normally your hormones and the contraction are made to make your brain doing all those hormones that are relaxing you, like the oxytocin and the endorphin are there to help you. So if you don't make them, if you don't, I can't find the word either in French, secret, yeah. If you don't make those hormones, it means that something is on the way and don't allow you to do it. So always remember to check all those points. Feel secure, feel warm, and feel covered, like intimacy in your little nest. Like at the end of the pregnancy, a lot of women, they want their house to be perfect, clean and ready. And that's a way of nesting. Like that's where we see that we are animals, all the animals, mammals, birds are preparing the nest for their babies. And we are doing the same. And actually, like breech baby, there is a saying saying that look for the breach into your life to understand why your baby is in breach. So usually if you're organized well, your nest is ready and all your problems are solved, then the baby turns and is ready to be born. So it's actually, everything is really logical and simple. we make it something really hard because we are in Occidental countries are thinking too much. They always want to have answers, question, you look into Google and then you stress. But if you have no knowledge, if you don't learn anything, the day of the birth, your body will do it. You just have to go with the flow, kind of surfing on the wave and trying to not fall in the water. And if you fall in the water, you go back on the surf. But we are designed to make it, and that's really important. I will keep on repeating and repeating. It's not because I don't want to, I don't know what to say, but it's just because that's the key. That's definitely the key. Sorry, sometimes I'm going far. Yeah, going back to the birth plan. I know a lot of foreigners are really stressed about the episiotomy. Episiotomy in France is actually illegal. Like, you cannot just cut a woman just because it's a first baby or she seems narrow to you. In France, the gynecologist, and only him, because the midwife are not, normally they're not supposed to do episiotomy. It's only, it's called, for them, it's like a health condition. So that's why then if the woman needs an episiotomy, they call a gynecologist, and it won't be a midwife practicing the birth. So it's only legal if it's needed. Then it's hard to say that it was not needed, because it's really up to the gynecologist to see if it was needed or not. You have to know that as long as you're active into your birth, there is low risk of tearing or having an episiotomy. The episiotomy comes when you start being into the medical aspect, saying you're getting an epidural, but then the epidural is too heavy and you are not able to push efficiently. If you have a big baby, a first baby, and you cannot push, then that's the kind of case where they need to help you. And they're helping you with either like a vacuum or spatula or something like that, forceps. That's really rare, but it happens, and that's usually why they do an episiotomy. But if you're active and you feel everything and you're allowed, I mean, you're able to push efficiently, then there is no need of anything. And when it comes to tearing, if you, again, are free to take the position you want, then your body knows exactly why you want to squat or why you want to get up. If you're forced to stay on your back, then you might tear because you're forced to do something. But if you're not forced and you listen to yourself, there is no special reason of tearing. And if it's tearing, obviously Mother Nature did it well. So even if you're free and you take the position of you want and you push exactly when you want and you are tearing, it was just meant to tear. If it's so thin, it's also to save some life. Can you imagine if you had a baby and it didn't tear, then the baby would get stuck, and that would be really scary. So that's why don't freak out about tearing. It's also part of it, part of a natural birth, as long as it's followed. Like, you can put your own hand on your vagina and help and push exactly where you feel the head, rather than wait for the people to tell you when to push. So that's the main difference between a natural one and an epidural birth, is the moment of pushing. If you don't have any drug, you don't need no one to tell you when to push. If they ask you to push and you don't want to, then you just wait and tell them, you know what, I still don't want to push. Let me a few minutes and it will come. It's a matter of, it's like a switch. If you're about to turn on the light and you have your hand on the button, it's not because your hand is on the button that it's going to turn on. So it's exactly the same. If the baby's head is right there, but you don't want to push, it means that it's missing a few millimeters to give you that urge to push. So with no drug, no need to push by someone telling you. It's either you will have the urge to push, or the baby will be somewhere that's really disturbing you and you will want to push without no one telling you. So that's another step to know. So the one that wants to write in the birth plan that they don't want an episiotomy, it's kind of pointless, because like I said, they won't do it unless it's necessary. So even if you say, I don't want to, I cannot guarantee that they will respect that, to be honest. Again, I'm not there to scare you. I just want to be you aware, and then exactly where to stand and what to say at which moment. When it comes to the placenta, in France, the placenta, they like to have the placenta out within 20 to 30 minutes maximum after the birth. I would say more 20 minutes. So it's really important to stay connected when you just had your baby. Make sure that you just don't all go about the baby. The birth is not finished unless the placenta is out. So of course you're proud of yourself, you're happy to be a mom, you're happy to have your baby, but stay connected to your uterus and be like, the work is not done, I still need to expose this placenta. I say that because sometimes the mom are like, oh, I don't care, do whatever. But then the placenta is either too shy and doesn't want to come out, or you might bleed just because you're disconnected. So it's really important to always keep focus and stay connected with your baby, your uterus, your everything. Even your partner could be the person reminding you, don't forget, the placenta is not out, stay tuned, you know? It's really important. What's really not feeling quite good is after the birth is done. Obviously in France, you stay 2 hours in the labor room just for surveillance. So you do the skin to skin with your baby, but you also stay there just to make sure that you don't have extra bleeding or if your baby is breathing well. So for those 2 hours you stay there, and for 2 hours they will come every 15 minutes to massage your uterus to see if it's contracting well. So this is kind of unpleasant or even sometimes painful. Just so if you have the epidural, you feel it less, but if you don't have it, just remind the team that you drag free, so they have to be gentle with your uterus and not squeeze it like they're crazy. Let me just look at the question. In the US, placenta encapsulation is becoming more popular. Is this done in France? So weird enough, the placenta is in France is considered as like a trash and it's not yours. So if you have a birth at the maternity, you are not allowed to get your placenta. You can get it only if you have a home birth, then you do whatever you want. But in France, it's actually officially illegal. I was trained in the US to do the placenta encapsulation, but I don't do it often. First, because you don't get your placenta, but also because I don't promote it because it's illegal. I mean, it's not like officially illegal, but the texts are not that obvious. Let me just answer this mom. She's losing a mucus plug. So the mucus plug, for the one, it's good because she's kind of giving me hints on what to tell you. When you're having contraction at the beginning of your birth, you might lose a lot of different liquid or stuff coming out from your body. So it can be the water breaking, but it can be the mucus plug, which is really sticky, glary. It can be white, bloodish, or yellow. It depends from one woman to another one. A lot of women are going too quickly to the hospital because they get scared, but the mucus plug, you can even lose it up to 3 weeks before. And it's not necessarily a sign that you're gonna have the baby right away, but it's totally normal and it's not harming anyone. Good transition. After the birth, so after those 2 hours, of course, you can do the skin to skin. That's where they will offer you to put the baby on the breast for the first feed. It's obviously, logically, it's better to have the baby having that first feed within the 2 first hours. That will be easier for the rest of the breastfeeding. But in case of whatever, if the baby doesn't want to feed, don't stress out. The baby can always feed a few hours later, even if it's better earlier. There is no stress if it comes to your breast after that. What am I missing? About the birth plan. Yeah, normally the water breaking is coming naturally. In some case, if there's a bit of stagnation, like you've been dilating on, for example, at 5 for a few hours and nothing happened, before doing anything too medical and putting products, sometimes they invite you to break the water. So that's something they do in France, but usually it's either you're under the epidural or it's because it's stuck and they need to do something to unlock the situation. Normally, as long as there is progression into your birth, there is no need of breaking the water. It's just there for a reason. Sometimes the baby is not well placed, so obviously the baby needs to present this part of the head. So if it's like that, obviously it's not pressing the same way the cervix. So that's why having the water just allow the baby to move his head and adapt to the exact, the correct orientation of the pelvis. When it comes to having the epidural, here in this department, whenever the anesthetist comes, they always ask all the partners and the people with you to go out from the room. So it's not specifically for you. I know a lot of women are kind of freaking out like, what's happening? Why my husband has to come out? It's just part of the protocol. So usually the husband or the partner goes out of the room. There is just the midwife and the anesthetist that stays in the room. And when everything is done, they let you stay on your back for about 20 to 30 minutes just to make sure that the product goes in both sides in your legs. And then they welcome back the husband. I'm sorry, the timing. The blood is always making people scared. As long as it's not blood, like heavy period, it's fine. It can be bloody. It's just the cervix that's moving. First, I didn't want to make that live exactly for this reason, because I knew that I had 2 moms due really soon. And I'm like, I'm sure during the live, I will have some message. And here we go. I'm sorry, I want to be everywhere, but here we go. Again, if you want to plan a drug-free labor, as long as, the longest you can stay at home, the best it is, just because you're more free to do whatever you want. You're flexible to lay in your bed, go have a shower, eat, walk, have sex with your partner. That helps for the birth. Where as soon as you get to the maternity, you kind of, not stuck, but if you're really in labor, if you lose your water, they won't send you back to your house. You will stay in the maternity until the baby is born. Sometimes your water break and you don't have any more contraction. Usually they are patient. They will just monitor the baby, and some gynecologists will induce you within 24 hours. Some other can wait until 48 hours before inducing you. So it's either your labor starts by itself, or you will have to be induced, because once the water is broke, you have to have that baby. But usually it's the strong contraction that makes the water breaking. So average, it's before you have contraction, and then your water break, and then you have the baby. Sometimes it's the other way around, but that's not something we want, and we don't hope anyway, which is totally fine again, but it's just put you more pressure. If your water break, you're just like waiting for the contraction. Let me double check birth plan. Going to the bathroom is really important. Casey, do you know spinning babies? Yeah, that's actually what I wanted to talk to you about. Celine is suggesting the spinning babies is really a technique coming from the US to help the babies that are bridge or transverse to turn, or to ease some birth, even if the baby is in the correct position. It's just really helping the babies to dive properly. Shoot, I forgot what I wanted to say. What I was saying. Sorry, it's just that I see the comments coming up on the screen, so then I get confused. Yeah, talking about the toilets. Some are kind of ashamed if they have to poo during the birth. It's actually really common. Pooping during the birth is part of the birth. It's just that it's pushing in the correct area. If you want a natural birth, I will suggest to not take any suppository, just because if there is poo at that place at that moment, there is a reason. It's either slowing down, or yeah, it's just taking easy steps for your perineal area. And again, it's leading you exactly where to push at the correct time. You want poo and have your baby at the same time. It's first, usually you have the urge to poo, you have the feeling it's your baby, but first is the poo, if there is. Or, I mean, the tube is too narrow. It's either the head or the poo. You cannot poo and have the baby at the same spot. And most of the women, when they start having labor, they have a lot of urge to go to the loo really early. So you're definitely way empty before having the baby. But what's important is to go often to the loo, because the bladder of the baby is in front of the head. So every time you're peeing, you giving space to the head. So it's important for your partner to keep in mind to sometimes ask you if you manage to pee, because sometimes you go often to the toilet, but you don't manage to pee because it's too much pressure and you just can't do it. And I have seen some mom having some stagnation in the dilatation just because the bladder was full. And even without an epidural, she couldn't make it peeing on her own. So sometimes just with a little catheter, and it's armless, I mean, it's not comfortable, but it's not painful, they can empty your bladder and it gives you plenty space for the baby's head. And you can still have your natural birth just by emptying a bladder. So always keep in mind to notice if you manage to pee often, or at least not stay for like 5 or 6 hours without peeing, especially if you drink a lot during the labor. I think I went through everything I wanted to say for this part. I might just give you the access on the camera and the microphone. You can activate your camera if you wish, or your microphone. If you have any question, any comments, any fears, any question that you want to ask to other people. Don't be shy, I won't bite you. Did I make you scared, or did I answer a few of your inside questions? How come I cannot? No one's want to talk, or you cannot manage to talk? So Lynn is asking, how easy would it be to find an English-speaking midwife? During labors, most of them have basic English. So especially when you go to a private clinic, you will find someone speaking English, perhaps not wanting to say that I speak perfectly English, but most of them, they don't speak my kind of English, but usually there is at least one that speaks a basic one. Is your partner speaking any French at all or not? Because the easiest is to have the partner speaking French or English rather than you, because you need to be focused on your birth and not on trying to communicate with people. Rachel, you've given me a lot to think about. There's quite stuff to ask yourself and to discuss with your husband, your partner, just to see if you're connected, or if you might think that you're crazy, like, why you want to ask this? About cord delay clamping. I don't know if it's the correct way of saying words, but it's becoming big. It's not a fashion, it's just that it's pretty obvious that they discovered that leaving the baby with this cord at least 2 minutes is lowering the risk of lack of iron when they are older. Most of them, especially when you had a natural birth, it's kind of logical that you want to leave the cord pulsing a bit, but that's something you can add in your birth plan as well. I hope, hold on, let me, that's in private, sorry, I might not just read aloud. So if you go in a private, in a clinic, the midwife there will be the one in duty. Like, you cannot choose your own midwife except if you have a home birth, but otherwise it will be just the one on duty. So, and then if you're in a clinic, gynecologist will come just for the end to catch the baby. If you're in public, it would be just the midwife running the birth. Not at all, he's Spanish between the two of us. Okay. It's still two languages that are pretty common here. So it might be a mix of Spanish and English, but that should not stress you. If you do a birth plan, at least the biggest concern are on the paper and you don't have to think about too much. So And honestly, as long as you're fine, you don't need to discuss. You just say, you just show what you need, and they will just have, actually it's even better to not understand anything, because then they cannot force you, because they're like, oh, poor thing, she doesn't understand. So use it. Use it, use it. Yes. I'm still thinking to see if I forget anything. Feel free again to either activate your microphone or to write more questions. I'm just making sure that I didn't forget. In case you don't have, thank you, Casey. In case you don't have a car, because sometimes like expats don't have a car, obviously the day of the birth you have to call the pompier, the 112. The fire in France, firefighters and ambulance is the same. We call it pompier. They could take you there. Me as a doula, I know that I sometimes I'm the taxi. I'm the one getting the clients to the hospital. If everything goes too fast, which is for a first baby, average we talk about a 12 hours labor. So it's pretty rare that for a first baby you have it at home unexpected. But if things happen, it means that everything went well and fast. So make sure just you're warm, and then you can call the ambulance after, and they will take you to the hospital just to double check that everyone is doing fine. Actually happened recently to one of my clients. It was a second baby, but by the time she called someone, the baby was already there in his dad's hands. So everything was just perfect, and they were totally fine. So again, keep the faith in your body. We are designed for it. You know, even if you've never done it, you know it. It's exactly like sneezing. You cannot expand and teach someone to sneeze. It's a reflex. When it comes, hush, it comes. When it comes to birth, it's the same. I know it sounds too easy to explain it like that, but there is no other way to understand that it's natural. We are designed for that. Moving at this, it depends your character, Lynn. If you're flexible enough and adventurous enough, I think it's possible. But depending where you go in Spain, I know Spain, when it comes to natural birth, are worse than France. France are more flexible. I know in Spain, because whenever I travel, I try to contact local doulas. And when I traveled to Spain, I was kind of, whoa. So honestly, if you have choice, French will be a better option. Depending where you go in Spain, but that's something we could discuss and I could find out. But yeah, it really depends what kind of birth you want. But I would suggest to stay in France, not for the moving purpose, but just for the country you're going to. It's really getting dark. I don't have any other light. Ouch! And this one. Yeah, that's a horror movie that I'm doing that. No, that's awful. Perfectly, yeah. For the ones that have further question, more private, I think you received a message somehow from me, so you can contact me. I really hope I give you some hints and some other ideas. I still have time for you if you have more questions. For me, I think I'm done for what I wanted to give you for tonight. Thank you for you all. Enjoy really the rest of your pregnancy. Thank you, Celine, for being here. I hope you've learned something too. Because Celine is also doula, if I understood well, right? And it was more on the English vocabulary that she was there for. I don't see any more questions. I'm unable to unmute my phone. Hold on, Casey. One more thing. Casey, I think it should be on your microphone. Breastfeeding, it's not really clubs, it's more like association. We have the La Leche League one is an international association, and there is different. Actually, we have a La Leche League English speaking. She's a Chinese organizer, and she's based in Lagod. I can't find you the contact, but definitely. And I'm running those groups. I can send you the links once per month. I'm doing meetups for expat. And it's really informal, but it's just getting together and making sure that you have connections, friends, and support. So that's definitely something else that I can share to you girls, the guys. Sure, with pleasure, Rachel. Thank you. Yeah, make sure to be surrounded by people, create a community. That's really something that's important for me. So I will definitely send you the link for those meetups. The next one is on July 7th. It's totally free. It's in a park. We'll be in the shade. There is some water sprinklers, and it's from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Everyone can come and go anytime they want. There is like no restriction. We usually do a picnic there, and it's just a way of, actually, Casey, that's how we met, through that meetup. So it's a good moment to share amongst women. If I did, yeah, sure. If you, officially the birth preparation class are made by midwife, but I also do and help. I guess it's me not hearing. I was on mute. I'm sorry, Casey. It's my, yeah, because I can see that Lynn could hear you, but I couldn't. So try again. Now you're on mute. This is really, I'm sorry. Yeah, so I can help if you, usually what I like to do is to meet the couple, and I make sure to do like a big rehearsal for the birth, and we can see all those massage, breathing, balls, slings, suspension, heat, whatever. So loud and clear. Poor Casey, she was screaming in the microphone. But I still cannot hear anyone, so I guess, I don't know. I give up. I really need to put a light in this room. Anyway. But I have all your emails, so I will just do another. Of course, I can put you in contact, all of you also through each other, and I will make that email with the details of the group, the breastfeeding group as well, and whatever other question that you would have, I will just join it to the common mail, if it is fine for you. Thank you again. I'm still looking at you and looking at the chat. So if, I mean, even if it's something out of the blue, if you have any more questions. No, I cannot hear anyone. That's really weird. Try again, Casey. I don't know. I keep on muting and muting myself, but whatever I do, I don't hear anything. She can still talking before you came back in. When would you suggest how many weeks that the couple meet with you? It's really up to each person. Some I meet them like 2 days before the birth. I mean, with the dad, I'd like to do it 1 month before, just in case the baby comes soon. But if we do it too early, the dads forget. So to have it kind of nice and clear in their head and body, I do it 1 month before the due date. And how often, it really depends couples. And it can be on talking about the birth, but it can be to prepare the postpartum, on preparing the breastfeeding. I do prenatal massage as well, prenatal, postnatal massage, babies. I mean, if you listen to it, I mean, if you read to each other, you can talk. I'm just sorry I cannot participate, but I can give you each other's contact as well. Yeah, I will, definitely. Lynn and Casey. You will send, yeah, I have all your emails. So I will do, except if someone doesn't want to share the email, otherwise I will just share each other's emails. Sure, cool. So, sorry about that microphone. I don't know what's up. Oh, it's so dark. Goodness. Dark in dark. You can't see me anymore. You see, I'm getting thirsty and I didn't take anything to drink, which was really stupid of me. Any more questions? Like I said, I will send you the email so you can reply to this one. If you have any more questions, I will put you each other in contact, and we can even meet at the next meetup. Except Celine, that's not from this area, but the 3 of you girls are from here. Once again, I'd like to thank you for tonight. Thank you for attending this, this live. Nice to not meet you, but nice to have you with me. And take care of yourself, and I guess I'll see you soon. I will let you disconnect because like this, I'm sure that I'm not missing any question. Bye, thank you. Bye, good night. Thank you, Lynn, for the compliment. Bye, Rachel. Bye, Casey. Au revoir, Céline, et merci.